They were always shocked when I came in.
I think it is just that self-belief that I can do it.
I could do every job throughout that factory.
What steps do I need to take to truly invest in myself?
The One for Business, the new podcast from East Midlands Chamber.
So hello from the Green Room at Valent Live in Derby. It's exciting, not just because we're in the showbiz part of the building, but it's a pretty cool venue. And the reason we're here, this is the first official episode of the One for Business. That's the brand new podcast from East Midlands Chamber, which brings together over 4,000 member businesses right across the East Midlands region of the UK. The International Women's Day conference has just happened in this building, and that's because International Women's Day is in its 115th year. I mean, that's got to be some serious progress, or is it? I mean, that's what I kind of want to find out in this episode of the podcast. The East Midlands is known for its cultural diversity the world over, and there happens to be this network called Enterprising Women, and I'm here with its two co-chairs, Jean Mountain and Eileen Perry. Hello, Jean.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Eileen.
Hello.
We're going to be talking in this podcast all about Enterprising Women and its significance all around International Women's Day in its 115th year. Now there's a bit of a celebration going on with Enterprising Women, isn't there? I mean, as a network, it's been going for, what, nearly 30 years? Is that right, Jean?
Absolutely. We co-founded this in 1997.
Wow.
So we're in our 29th year this year. Obviously, the big one is next year. And we're super, super proud simply because some networks, they come, they go, but the longevity of Enterprising Women is growing and growing and growing. And, you know, people do know is actually on a national stage as well, so which is fabulous.
Well, I want to find out more about that in just a bit. And Eileen, you've been involved for what, just over 10, nearly 15 years now, is that right?
Yeah, nearly 15 years. So I got involved when East Midlands Chamber merged Nottingham and Derby with Leicestershire. Jean and I met, and Enterprising Women had got already a very strong profile and a very strong following. So after a bit of a punch up between Jean and I,
wow,
she won. She basically won.
Yeah.
Still got the black eye, but she won.
We're not having a punch up today, are we?
No, not at all, not at all. But yes, Eileen and I got on straight away. We hit it off really well, and we love it, and we love doing it and sharing the experience together. And long may it continue. That's my motto. Long may it continue.
Okay, well, the first thing I think we need to do, we need to get to know you. So let's start with you, Eileen. Now, you're a business leader. You run a recruitment company in Leicester. So tell me about you. Tell me about your journey through business.
Yeah, so I've been in the recruitment industry for 30 years. Started as a trainee, and at the young age of 30 was offered a position as a managing director for a big national company. Wow. My first reaction was, can I do this? Am I ready to do this? I don't want to let anybody down. And just the thought, two things really. The thought of my title being managing director scared me a little bit. And my second thing was I hadn't really driven on the motorway a lot. And it was a national role. So that was something else. But both things that very nearly stopped me from actually taking that position. Really successful, really enjoyed that role. 13 years ago, because of some personal things that happen and life changes direction, I decided that I wanted to set up my own business, but to stay in the recruitment industry because that's what I know and that's what I'm good at, but to be in a position to be able to offer back to the community that I work and live in. So whilst I work in and live in Leicester, my role's very much always been about the East Midlands. I had people, men and women, that believed in me and saw something that probably I didn't. I was one of 7 children, didn't have a lot of money, we had a lot of respect, and we had a lot of hard work and determination, I guess, in all of us. And I was so thankful for the opportunity. I think when I first got the job, I just worked really hard, but I loved it. And when you love something, you become really good at it, I believe. The thought of managing people also, so you think I was just looking after myself, but the thought of looking after other people, but looking back, that's actually been one of my greatest joys. Working with people, watching them develop, a little bit like me thinking, I'm not going to be able to do this, and then you believe in people, not tell them how to do it, but guide them through that. I've had a great career and I absolutely love it. And, I like the position that I've got to now, so I can get involved with networks like Enterprising Women. That
journey that you've just described there and getting to the position that you've got to, that must echo some of the stories that we've heard today at this International Women's Day conference. Absolutely. And, Mariam, who was our businesswoman. This is Mariam Smith. Yes, Mariam Smith, Datalink. She said on stage today, I couldn't believe it when I won. My name was called out and I couldn't believe it. And I think
that is the story of a lot of successful women. And there's something actually really nice about that, you know, that humble approach, and people that have worked really hard for it and maybe never thought they'd quite get there, I think sometimes makes them absolutely the right person to be in that position.
And what about you, Jean? Is this the kind of thing that you've experienced? Tell us about your journey.
I started in business in 1985. I went to a very manufacturing business, started off in accounts, realised that I talked a little bit, quite a lot, and therefore went into the sales and the marketing, eventually took over the company, and then from there just always saw new opportunities. Unfortunately, I've been telling Eileen this for a long time. Please learn to say no to things. I keep joking I'm going to retire. I'm semi-retired now, but I just worked my way through things. I had a factory. We formed a business crime forum for security on there. I was once the vice chair of the National Business Crime Forum. Did lots and lots of other things like starting the APPG, which was the largest at the time, the all-party parliamentary group. But I am in my 41st year thinking this is going to be the change, time to slow down a little bit, but I probably won't. 30 years it's coming up since co-founded Enterprising Women, because there was a huge gap. I went to lots of events where very, very male orientated, and I literally was the only female in the room. That's the thing of breaking the glass ceiling when I joined the chamber. Getting on the board of directors was massive. I was one of 20, only woman of 20 board directors, which was just incredible then. And I do feel very proud of some of my chamber moments and founding Enterprising Women. It's most certainly the best thing I've ever done. I've always wanted to champion women because I was very young when I started my career and started being an MD, just like Eileen. I was even younger than Eileen at 30. It's hard and it's tough, and I just didn't want it as years go on to make it even tougher for people, and breaking that glass ceiling of being on the chamber board. I was one of the very first presidents of the Chamber of Commerce.
Now you talk about this glass ceiling. What do we mean by that?
Well, it was tricky. When you used to go to events, there was hardly any women went there. You walked in and there was no women in the room who had the confidence to go into a room, hand out. In the old days, we used to have business cards. Sorry. We used to have business cards, handing the business cards out. A lot of women hadn't got the guts, even people who own businesses, and that was really, really difficult. I then was, invited to join the chamber board, which was massive. I was nervous, the imposter syndrome, I had that. Thought, well, am I good enough? I remember sweating when I first walked into that, but never even then did I think I'd be actually invited to be a president.
Well, between you, you've done amazingly. I mean, clearly, because you've both been presidents of East Midlands Chamber, and you both have this network, Enterprising Women. You're filling conferences like you've done today at Valent Live, and getting businesswomen from all over the East Midlands, as in Nottinghamshire, Derbyshire, Leicestershire, to attend and appear on stage and be part of that. So we'll come on to that in a minute about why that is so important. You're both from the East Midlands. Just tell me, each of you, what is your connection to the area? Eileen?
Born and live in Leicestershire, and I think the real connection, I remember, and this is again comes back to why Enterprising Women is so important. I remember sitting with my teacher at school in terms of my careers advisor. Back then, I think it was very textile, very manufacturing driven. There certainly were jobs for the men and jobs for the women. And my careers advisor, when I said, I'm one of 7 children, it's all about communication, I just love people. So that's always been a thing that I've known from a young age. And he said, I think you should go and work in a factory, or I think you could be a really good hairdresser. Now, actually, secretly, Tim, I wanted to be a hairdresser.
Okay.
But
nobody will ever hear that, will they, Eileen?
And I'm still not very good at doing my hair. I've been on courses. So I think there was that part of me. And plus my 2 elder sisters, when they left school, they did go and work in a factory as overlockers, because that was the only career advice that they got. So for me, and I was child number 5 out of the 7, and I'd considered going to university, maybe doing my CIPD, but we couldn't really afford that. So college was a good route. And I went for this job. For me, it was a summer job, really. It was a permanent position for a photocopying business that did telex machines. So for the more seasoned of us that remember what a telex machine
Showing
is.
your age now,
I am showing
Eileen.
my age. And that was to be a summer job. And what they said to me after 2 months is, if we teach you everything about business, so we'll start you as an office junior, you'll be on reception, you'll work in accounts, you'll work in finance, you'll work in sales, we'll get you to do all of it. If you do that for us for another year, we'll support you through your CIPD, the HR qualification. And that's exactly what I did. And I stayed there for 7 years before I went into recruitment. Now you're probably going to be able to start working at my age soon, aren't you? I'm giving too many dates in
You
years
said something
away.
like a telex machine.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
I'm seasoned.
I'm not a fax machine.
And I make out you're so
did
much
sell
younger
fax
than me.
machines. They did sell fax machines too. But when I came out of that job, I was so work ready. It was unreal, because it gave me an appreciation of how to celebrate success. It was champagne back then on a Friday at the end of the month, because it was the boom, late 80s, early 90s.
Is it Friday yet? No, it's not
Is it Friday?
No.
It's not quite Friday.
Not quite. But it taught me about communication, and having that appreciation of how different departments work within a business. I think we'd always worked with predominantly East Midlands businesses of all different shapes and sizes. So when that company, they moved to Bristol, when they said, we want you to go to Bristol, and actually to offer me a management position, I didn't want to leave the East Midlands. I knew at that point I wanted to have a career in the East Midlands. I didn't know it was going to be recruitment, but I fell into recruitment because I walked into a recruitment agency and said, I just want to temp in loads of organisations because I actually don't know what I want to do yet. So ironically, that was the start of my career. I've always wanted to stay in the East Midlands. I think it's a great place to live. I think it's a good place to work. I think there's a great collaboration of people and business. I think that we're probably a bit too modest as a region. I think we do some great things. I think we've got a lot of brilliant businesses, true entrepreneurs that run SMEs, but they just don't shout about it.
How do we do this shouting more?
Well, the shouting more, I think Enterprise and Women Awards is a great example of that. The East Midlands Awards. That puts you on the map from a regional perspective and get recognised nationally maybe first and then global.
But now with Enterprising Women, what you've got is this amazing vehicle to be able to celebrate success. How important is it to be doing that?
Well, I think it's really important, Tim, because some people literally have gone through the career. We've been doing the awards now for about 13 years of the 29 years of Enterprise and Women, maybe a bit longer actually. But I think it's great that you literally can go from the Apprentice of the Year, and we've actually had people who have entered that category and then gone on to be a part of the Team of the Year, Small Business of the Year, or even gone into the the Businesswoman of the Year. And then the ultimate one is obviously the Lifetime Achievement Award. But being a cynical businesswoman, I would say join the awards, because whether you win or don't win, or even not a finalist, it's something good to put on your social media. It's a good marketing tool to say, here I am, this is what I do, and your name's out there then. And sometimes it can get one customer from it and it means a lot, and it raises your profile, because people are on LinkedIn a lot and other personal channels of social media. And I just think it's absolutely great to shout about yourself and say, this is how good I am, without actually saying those words.
You missed one thing though. It's a bit of a party as well.
It's always a party.
I've been there. I've seen you both on the dance floor.
Yeah. Why did he look at me then? Not you, Eileen. I wonder.
It's a celebration, really.
It is.
It's a celebration success
Of the rise of women and not the fall of men, because I'm going to quote Eileen's phrase. We do have fun. And, that was the one thing I didn't want it to be, from 29 years ago. The one thing I didn't want it to be was a stuffy organisation where, who's got the shiniest shoes, who's got the best dress on, anything like that. That is totally against everything I wanted it to be. I wanted everybody to feel comfortable, no keeping up with the Joneses, and that is something that Eileen and I have strived really hard for over the last 15 years, especially to encompass every walk of life. When we actually have the awards towards the end of September, how many men actually come with their partners that they are supporting them? I used to go to do's years ago, even in my own right. I was the guest, invited guest, and my husband would come along, and they would always think or shake their, not always, but predominantly think that he was the person that's been the invitee. Oh, what name is it, sir? No, it's actually, I'm coming as the husband of Jean even. And this is what's changed over the years, that I am loving seeing the partners, husbands supporting their partners. And that, at first they only used to come on their own, the ladies, and now they come bring their partners.
That's changed as well since COVID, hasn't it?
It has.
Thinking about the awards, I'm not saying COVID has changed that, but I see this on a recruitment day to day. You know, people have a different appreciation, not just men versus women, but I think just a complete appreciation for the roles that people do, and going back to celebrating that success. I think the great thing about Enterprising Women, it's just always been the norm that we are a diverse group, that it's to celebrate all walks of life, as Jean said. I think with Enterprising Women, we want that diversity, because if we haven't got that, we never learn different things.
I mean, it's interesting that you've both had very successful businesses and you've both built really strong careers, but you're both passionate about it's the rise of women, it's not the fall of men, and you're very interested in businesses that are doing well. What is it about that kind of motivates you? Is it that you both really enjoy sort of seeing other businesses being successful?
Yeah, it really is that. Sharing the journey from maybe being a micro business to an SME business, having no staff to 15 staff. I think it's that. And sharing our experiences as well, because running your own business can be quite lonely.
It can.
And we haven't got all the answers. And actually, in reality, what happens is a lot of SMEs you work with, the managing director or the owner of the business is a person that's had the inspiration, whether it's a product or a service, but they find themselves the head of finance, the head of marketing, the head of everything. It's okay to outsource things and having somebody else better than you to come in and do it.
Now, the FTSE Women Leaders Review report hasn't really shown much change, I would say, from 2025. It's saying that women make up 43% of roles on company boards and 31% of the 50 largest private companies. So are women already there? Have we already succeeded in this? I'm keen to ask you both your thoughts on that. Eileen, what do you think? Have women made it?
Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at it. I think that it's disappointing that there wasn't that perhaps increase from last year to this year. But when you look at the 2 years prior to that, there was quite a significant increase. From a recruitment perspective, when we advertise senior positions in terms of director roles, CEO, businesses looking for that number 2 in the company, we looked at this again last year, and if we had 8% of women applying for those roles, and that's we go out and headhunt women. These are women that are actively applying. There's only 8% of those. And when we speak to those 8%, they still scrutinise the job description and the skills and the responsibilities and say, I can maybe do 75% of that job, not 100%. You would never hear a man saying that.
So this is like someone sees a job description, there's like 10 things on there, and you go like, right, okay, you need to be able to, I don't know, let's start with the basics. You can use Office 365. Yep, tick that. Okay. You've got customer facing experience. Yep, tick that. Got that. If it's CEO level, you're good with budgeting, things like that. You've been a manager at some point, you've got leadership experience. So tick, tick, tick. But then there's something on that list that you haven't got, or a couple of things on that. So what you're saying is that women will just go, I can't apply then because there's no way I'm going to get this job.
A lot of women, yes. And I think we go back to the imposter syndrome on that maybe a little bit. Can I do it? I wouldn't want to let anybody down. But it's sometimes, women, and I'm including this in things, when I said, being offered the role as an MD at the age of 30, we talk ourselves out of it. And what would be great to see is maybe women looking at those job descriptions and realising the transferable skills actually, and not reading what is just there, because it's about the drive, the commitment, the commercialisation, all of those things that truly make great leaders. So we, from a recruitment point of view, haven't seen that change massively in the last 10 years. I particularly like to track certain things, and that is one of it. We have got employers that we work with, some great employers, and it is men and women saying it. Even if you have to put a photo of a woman on the front of that advert, and it's not necessarily to make up the diversity on the board, it's because they feel a woman would be the best person in that job. So I think the world still has a way to go in terms of changing for example, more women on the FTSE. If we've got the right people in the right job, there shouldn't be discrimination, or we should give it to somebody from a certain background, or a male or a female, because we're ticking a box. I'm not overly concerned about it, because I think that's why networks like Enterprising Women, women on boards, these networks make a difference and make women truly realise why we should have a voice, and not just for the sake of it. I think it's exciting times ahead, I really do. But that is also why it's so important that we are working with schools, colleges and universities, with men and women, girls and boys, to help them to realise the difference as well. Because I don't want to say it's an education piece, but it's just that realisation that you need different people to make a great workforce.
So there's almost two sides to it. There's the businesses that are deciding who they're going to recruit, and they're creating whatever culture they want that will suit their business. But then there are also the applicants, and there's this something that might be holding people back, this sense of a lack of confidence, lack of self-confidence. But where do you think that comes from? I mean, you spoke earlier about when you became a managing director at the age of 30, how you had you hadn't driven on motorways before. That was something new, and how when you were at school, you were sort of told that women had to do certain jobs. I think you said like being a hairdresser, jobs that you'd probably now consider to be a cliche and old-fashioned.
And a really good job as well.
So there has been a change. But do you think that some of this reluctance that people might have, that women might have to apply for jobs, could stem from that? So it could actually be a historical thing, not actually a reflection of now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, you look at your childhood, the way you've been brought up, how you've been brought up, where somebody says you can do anything, and somebody that says, children are here to be seen and not heard. We hear some of those stories, Enterprising Women over the years. Women, I think, take the responsibility still to maybe be the one that looks after the children. I think it's a whole mix of things, Tim. I think it is imposter syndrome. I think some of it is culture. Some of it is not realising the transferable skills and that potential. But some of it is just life. We had somebody speak at our event a few years ago. Her mum died, and I could relate to this because my mum died young, but that really had an impact on her career, because her mum was her idol, but she made different choices at work. I don't think we can just always assume it's not people giving women the opportunity. I think sometimes we hold ourselves back, and I'm not always popular for saying that, for different reasons. But it's also always believing in ourselves and sometimes just going for that opportunity. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And that could be a man, it could be a woman, but somebody else is going to take that opportunity. In my early years as a director in recruitment, I'd say something, and I'd probably say it quieter than I would now. And people might nod and be very polite, because I probably didn't say it really with any conviction. And then a man would say it, and it was, wow, what a great idea, fantastic idea. And only now do I put my hand up, and if that ever happens, and it hasn't happened for a while, but put my hand up and say, I've just said that. Yeah. I've just said that. And just because somebody else has said that
must be so
in a stronger way, you're listening to their view.
That's with maturity.
But that's about having a voice.
Yeah.
And have you experienced that, Jean?
Oh, crikey. Yes, absolutely. I've had it years ago. I was like 20 odd when I went on the boards and other boards as well. I was governor at a high school, lots of things like that. People, you not only had two things against me, not only was I female, but I was also very, very young, 20 years younger than the other people sitting around the table. One thing I love about Enterprising Women, and I'm glad that it keeps its brand exactly as we want it to be, is there's some people who will always be shy, not gain the confidence, whether they're 30, 40, 50 or 60 years old, but I want them to be able to come, or we want them to be able to come and enjoy being within our network and not thinking, I've got to aspire to that or that or that. 20 years ago, even on the board, I wouldn't have dared challenge anybody, even or say anything back. Hey, I said that, and that was sort of overlooked, and now you're saying it.
We make different choices. My favourite word is choice. You ask the 16-year-old looking for the new role what they want to be, and it's just, you see the world through a different lens. And again, it's life and experience that changes that sometimes genuinely forces us to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions are for the best.
One of the things that we heard today at the International Women's Day conference was this idea in one of the talks that if we can get more women into business, into leading roles, it would actually significantly boost the economy. What do you think about that?
I mean, in this what I'm going to be honest is kind of difficult times we're living in at the moment. You know, people are watching the money, and it's a shock when that figure comes out. It just shows that it is very important to get people into that, because it is like a revenue source for the country, which is great. But then on the same, just to reiterate what Eileen said earlier, only 8% females going for leadership roles. 8% is an appalling number. 8% is just pure women not being confident enough to go for it. It's got to be. That's how the maths works in my head. So yes, if it would drive the economy by another £250 million, then I'm all for it.
The first thing I thought when that was said was the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, because we do think differently, and that's okay. And a woman running exactly the same, let's put manufacturing business against manufacturing business, a man and a woman, they would do it completely differently. And I would love to know more around those statistics.
Going back to your early days, just starting out in business, which you've already talked about earlier, but did you find much resistance, much holding you back? I mean, you've talked about things like having imposter syndrome. Was there a feeling that there was something deeper, there was something making it more difficult to become successful? Jean?
Absolutely. I went into manufacturing very early, a little bit like Eileen. My father wasn't very happy. I'm an only child. You had all my siblings. I'm an only child. She had 7, I had none. Yes, so basically I went into manufacturing. My father did want me to go to university. He wanted me to get a proper career, so I went down the accountancy path, never worked as that. But the one thing that it was in a factory environment. We ran a manufacturing plant. I worked my way up quite quickly into my early 20s, from about 18 onwards. I used to wear heels like Eileen in those days. Now I just can't walk in them. And a very sexist thing, but I'm talking mid-80s. And I know that my nickname on the factory floor, when they used to hear me come out the office and it was, a sort of concrete floor, was Miss Fancy Pants. That was my nickname, meant with affection most of the time. So yes, in answer to your question, that's the honest answer. And yes, it was seen. And again, it was two things were against me in the early 80s: my sex and obviously being female, and my age. They were totally against me in that environment. Shocked why I was there. They were always shocked when I came in, and when I became manager, why her to be manager. She doesn't know about the engineering, but she knows all the other skill sets. I could do the accounts, I could do the P&L, I could do every job if required throughout that factory. It was on merit, not to do with my age, not to do with my academia, not to do with my sex. That's why I could do and become the boss.
Do we need more women, do you think, with that mentality?
Absolutely. It's not about, I'm better than men. I'm not. Like Ali's just said, I had a manufacturing business with a woman and a manufacturing with a man leading, we'd do it differently. We could both end up with the same outputs, the same profit and loss, the same everything, but we would do it completely different because we're two different species. But yes, as it moved on, it's got better, but there is still a long way to go. Eileen was obviously talking about the FTSE from last year, and even from 2019 pre-COVID, it's not gone up as much as it should do.
I think say yes when every part of you wants to say no, and try. And I guess when I started out, you don't know what you don't know, do you? 16, 17. And this is where the world has changed. Social media has changed that dramatically, because businesses can't get away with quite so much, maybe as they could have done back then. I loved my first job, but all the girls sat upstairs. There was two men that sat upstairs in the office. They were both the managers, and the women made the tea. So not only did we have to go down, to make the tea, it would have just been unheard of for one of the guys to have made the tea. I never started my career thinking I want to be a managing director when I'm 30, or I want to be running my own business in my 50s. I started it just wanting to do a really good job. I wanted to be independent, and I knew that from my upbringing. And it wasn't just I don't want to rely on a man. I didn't want to rely on anybody. We were back in the day, my dad handed my mum the brown envelope. There was no digital pay slips or anything. And I think probably from the age of 10, I knew that I wanted that independence. So starting out in work for me was to work hard and providing a great customer service, because if you do that, the monetary bit comes with it. And I think sometimes the generation, especially coming through, they want the nice cars, they want the nice jewellery, they want the title of a director. And I'm not saying they don't have to work for it like we did. You've got to put that effort in for somebody to recognise it and think, yeah, I want you to do it. And I think that's what I've always done, is just worked hard. But the world has changed from what it was a lot from, when I was 17.
Yeah, me too.
So given where we've got to with this, we've seen how there's now 43% of women making up boards on the FTSE 350 and 31% of women in the top in leadership roles in the top 50 companies. But you're saying we haven't got far enough, and you were talking about how 8% of people are applying for these leading roles. What needs to happen next?
I think it's for women investing in themselves more, whether that is from an education perspective, if that gives them the confidence to do it. Mentoring and coaching is great. Really underestimated. I think to have a mentor or a coach to give you that guidance and making it all about you. The world is changing, and AI, there's some great things around AI, but AI will never replace people. I think it is just that self-belief that I can do it, but it's then recognising what steps do I need to take to truly invest in myself to achieve what I want to do.
And how can this network that you run, Enterprising Women, how can that help women get to that point? Coming
along, joining it, just having the confidence that not everybody's as confident as Eileen and I. We've worked at it over the years. We weren't born like this, and even doing this today, something new for us today. It's something brand new that Eileen and I have never done, and we've put ourselves out the comfort zone, and that is the key thing, I think. Put yourself out of the comfort zone. Everybody can get very plateaued what they do. Sometimes a little jolt. Don't let something happen to you to force your hand. Do it for yourself. Joining our network and coming to our events, walking in the room, just push yourself out of your comfort zone, because you can do it. One of my lasting thoughts today would be, long after Eileen and I have had our day, I just hope that for the next 30 years, Enterprising Women is still here, as a legacy to both of us. That's something of the network which I'm, really, really proud of.
Well, judging by the number of people that were at today's International Women's Day conference, I think Enterprising Women is going on for years and years and years. There's definitely every sign of that. And people can join, can't they, by going to the East Midlands Chamber website and finding out more about it from that point and seeing how it can help them. So before I leave you, really appreciate your time today, sharing your experience on this very first episode of the podcast of The One for Business. Now, before you go, I'm just interested to know if you could sum up what Enterprising Women is, what does it mean to you in say 3 words? Connecting, growing,
and succeeding.
So we've got connecting, growing, succeeding. We going with that, Eileen?
I love that. And I think if we had to do another 3, it would be passion, supportive, like that, and collaboration.
Liking those as well. So we got 6 now.
Yeah, and Eileen just winged 3 of those.
We're doing fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Tim. We've loved every minute of it. Thank you. Almost.
Well, we will be back with The One for Business wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and Google East Midlands Chamber to find the website.
The One for Business, the new podcast from East Midlands Chamber.